Thanks for staying with us. I'm Haley Littleton, Communications and Marketing Coordinator for the town of Breckenridge, and I am here today with Rob Wolfe, who is with Breckenridge Creative Arts. So thanks for being with us.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I think just to start our conversation, maybe talk a little bit about the genesis of Breck Create and your journey within the organization.
Oh my gosh, it's been a journey, but no, it's been good. So Breckenridge Creative Arts, we started in 2014, and I think, Haley, it really came from this idea that the town wanted to invest in arts, culture, creativity. They saw how it would enrich the community, and I think they also recognized, how it would, be a proponent of economic development in the town as well. So they had this idea of branching off a separate nonprofit organization. So I started in early 2014, and we spent the first year just sort of planning what this would look like. And we launched Breckenridge Creative Arts in January of 2015. Okay. And really our charge is a couple things. So we oversee all of the cultural assets that are owned by the town. So that includes a bunch of facilities like the Riverwalk Center, the Arts District campus, Old Masonic Hall, the beautifully renovated Breckenridge Theater, as well as the Speakeasy Theater. And we also oversee the town's public art collection as well. So we manage all of that, and that's like the less fun part of what we do. The fun part of what we do is we're also a presenter, producer, promoter ourselves. So we do a bunch of concerts, exhibitions, festivals like that throughout the year.
And then, so how did you get involved? What's your background in the arts?
Oh my gosh, well, I've been in arts administration now about 25 years,
wow.
And I actually visited Breckenridge back in, this would have been the early 2000s, and I remember saying to my wife, I said, I love this town, I wish I could get an arts gig here. And then it was like, 20 years later, the town was embarking on this. So yeah, I was fortunate enough to be hired in 2014 and hit the ground running, really putting this organization together, meeting with partners. At that time, we were also really involved in a lot of capital projects. So we were renovating the Riverwalk Center and upgrading the Breckenridge Theater and doing the Arts District campus. So there was a lot of development, as a startup organization. But it's been a great ride, and we continue to try to have fun and bring lots of arts and entertainment to the community. Yeah,
and I think, what do you think makes Breck a uniquely arts town? There's been a lot of press about it recently and growth. And
well, I tell you, and I recognize this as soon as I came, there's certainly a very rich creative community here, and I say that beyond just the arts organizations. We have some great, a great gallery community. We have a great sort of craft beverage community. We've got the candle makers and the authors and the musicians. So we've got all these creatives in our town, as well as a lot of these great arts organizations. So for me to come in, part of our charge was really to be an advocate for the greater creative community and really just tell that story, because so many people know Breckenridge as a recreational destination, right? And so this was sort of another side of our personality, that we could be artsy and creative and sort of innovative and really try to tell that part of Breckenridge as well.
Right, which I think was what the Colorado Public Radio story recently did a great job at just highlighting that. And so, that focused on the Arts District. So how do you think the Arts District has been beneficial to the renown of the arts community in Breckenridge?
Well, I love our Arts District, and that is really sort of the heart and soul, I think, of not only Breckenridge Creative Arts, but sort of just the creative community in general. It's that wonderful little campus in the middle of town. And, the town, had a plan for many, many years, long before I got here, as to how it wanted to develop an arts district. And I really think, we landed on this place of offering something not only to locals, but also our guests who were coming in. And, we were finding, Haley, our guests were coming in more than 3 or 4 days. They were here for a week or possibly 2 weeks, and they were looking for something else to do. And so I think that Arts District really sort of not only provided a center for the community to gather, but it became a place for a lot of our guests to sort of try their hand at creativity.
Right.
So we, that campus is made up of 7 different studios and creative spaces, everything from ceramics to metalwork to textiles, all of that kind of thing. We have exhibits up there. We host artists in residence up there. So it's a really vibrant hub for creative energy in this town.
Right, and the buildings are so unique, right?
So
some of them do you have some historical tidbits about any of the buildings?
Well, what I love about it is, most of the buildings, not all of them, but I would say 3/4 of them are repurposed, refurbished from, old structures, old barns and sheds, and, the wood was preserved. And, and in fact, that old Masonic Hall, which is right on the corner of Washington and Main, that's the Masons Hall from the late 1800s. Wow. And I really believe like the spirits of, of our ancestors are in those buildings, and the fact that the town sort of reinvented them and breathed new life into these historic structures, and now become these spaces for all this sort of new creative energy, which I just think is, I think it's great, and I think it represents sort of the spirit of Breckenridge,
right.
That kind of pioneering spirit, that entrepreneurial spirit, and I think that campus really captured that.
Yeah, wonderful. And what have you found that people really enjoy with your programs? What are residents' favorites, or what do guests really like?
Well, we've had a lot of success with the festivals that we do. We produce 2 signature events each summer. One is called Wave, which is a big light festival with a lot of big spectacle light installations that are along the waterfront. That's been very, very popular. And then back in 2015, we launched the Breckenridge International Festival of Arts. We call it BIFA, B-I-F-A. It's just easier to say.
Right.
But it was, I wasn't quite sure how the community would respond. I wasn't sure, what they would think. And people loved it. And I think what we found was how we could take these arts and creative experiences and actually put them outside. We started having success putting concerts on the trails. And
the Trail Mix.
Trail Mix is a very popular series within BIFA where we put environmental installations and local musicians are on the trails. And people just they're out there anyway, right? They're out there with their families, or they're hiking and biking, they're with the kids, and they sort of stumble upon these experiences, which has been a great surprise to them. And, it shows them another side of Breckenridge. Right? It's not just the recreational side of what we do. It kind of marries those worlds.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing is you walk around Breckenridge, and all across town you can see these cool public art sculptures and installations. And so how do you guys decide on the public art? What does that look like?
Yeah, public art. Well, it's public art can be a controversial subject, right? Because but the good news is that's what part of public art is. Public art is supposed to spark conversation and civic dialogue. And, I think the town really has a great public art program. We have 30 pieces in our permanent collection, which started decades ago. It started by some volunteers who really wanted the town to have a public art collection. And so we're 30 pieces in. Our newest piece will be an installation by an American sculptor named Albert Paley. That'll be installed in that new beautiful Plaza area down by the Riverwalk.
Oh, right, yeah.
And that goes in mid-June. But that process, that's been 5 years in planning, really.
Wow, yeah.
So we're excited to get that in. But our public art program, it used to be there was the Public Art Commission, which was appointed by the town. And when Breckenridge Creative Arts started, they ended up moving that over to BCA. And so we have now the Public Art Advisory Committee.
Oh, okay.
Very similar to the commission. It's made up of volunteers from the community who are artists, architects, educators, creatives, who really, advise on public art for the town. There's a whole sort of public forum in terms of public feedback when we look at public art, but we look at it in a lot of different ways. I know we were talking about the collection, all of the permanent public art that we have, but these festivals that we do, Wave and BIFA, a lot of that has what we call temporary or ephemeral art. So these temporary experiences, which are considered public art experiences, and even the International Snow Sculpture Championship.
Right.
That is considered ephemeral public art. People come out to experience it, and then in a few days it sort of disappears. So the other aspect of our public art program, which we are very proud of, is like the hands-on education part of it. So we have a lot of tours, either docent-led or self-guided tours, where you can see the public art collection, and a lot of sort of hands-on participatory experiences for our community to get involved in.
Right. You guys have a lot of art classes, right?
Oh, on the Arts District campus, yeah. So you can, just go to our website, breckcreate.org, and you can see the whole lineup of classes. And it's everything from ceramics to metalsmithing to printmaking to yoga to all kinds of things that are happening there. I mentioned before we have some artists in residence, and they come from all over the world and stay with us anywhere from 2 to 8 weeks. And they really get involved in the community. A lot of times they partner with a local nonprofit organization to look at a different, we call them sort of a place-based narrative. So they're looking looking at issues that affect our community. So they're looking at environment or sort of historical things, culture, things like that.
Yeah.
So it's a really unique program that's just kind of tucked up on that campus.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, it's very community building. My friends and I are talking about doing a ceramics class.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
So we're looking into that. And people can be members as well, right?
Absolutely. We have a great membership program, and it's just really a way for particularly our local community to have ownership of that arts district. It provides great discount on classes. So like if you're a member, you get 25% off of all classes, which are already, I think, fairly inexpensive. But, it just kind of gets you involved in that campus, and, you get to become more of a part of what's going on up there.
Right.
So people can find out about membership, all the classes, the artist residency, all of that's on our website at breckcreate.org.
Yeah, and I think what's unique too is the two theaters, the Backstage or Breckenridge Theater and the Speakeasy Theater.
Yes.
To give people opportunities.
It's been great, and I think I'm so glad that the town invested in renovating both those spaces, and they're continuing looking at their venues and how they can improve them. We're always looking at the sound quality and lighting quality and things like that, because I think it's starting to get very competitive up here. I mean, we're getting a lot of great music venues up here,
Yeah, we are.
which is great for me as a music fan. But so we're looking at how we continue to maintain our position as a presenter in the community, how we continue to leverage these great venues, improve the venues, and just make them community resources.
Right, and then of course you've talked about, which I want to talk a little bit more about, WAVE and BIFA.
Yeah.
I think those are the most anticipated events of the year now, and it's been a big success. So how many people does this draw to Breckenridge, and what's the national and international feedback?
Well, it's great, and I said when we went into it, we weren't quite sure what the community's response was going to be. We really used them to drive creative tourism to town, but we found that the local community embraced them as well, and they really loved sort of what we were offering. But so WAVE runs May 31st to June 3rd of this year. It's four days from 3 to 11 p.m. at night, and each year it keeps getting bigger and bigger. And so this year, it'll be our third year. It's the biggest yet, and we have 7 featured international light installations that'll land in sort of the main downtown core area. So Blue River Plaza up to the Arts District around the Riverwalk Center. And it's all free, it's all family friendly, and people can come out to these and a lot of them are participatory, interactive, public art installations, and people just sort of love it. So we've got some highlights there. We got a U.S. premiere of a piece called Angels of Freedom, which is actually coming from Jerusalem, Israel, and it's these massive angel wings that light up with halos, and people actually stand in front of them and take pictures, and this whole social installation. And then for BIFA this year, for Breckenridge International Festival of Arts, we're so excited. We are commissioning, many people have seen this on social media, we're commissioning, he's a Danish artist named Thomas Dambo, and people may have seen it. He does these massive giant sculptures with recycled wood in the forests, and he's sort of done them all around Copenhagen.
Oh, I have seen.
Oh my God, they're all over the place.
They're amazing, yeah.
But they're absolutely enchanting, and kids love them. So we'll be doing one of those here, sort of tucked up on one of the trails as well.
Oh, on one of the trails.
For BIFA, yeah. And we'll announce the WAVE program officially on middle of March, and then we'll announce BIFA in the middle of May, I think. Yeah.
Great. That's exciting. So those are some of the big features that are coming that you guys are excited
and Trail
about.
Mix, we were talking about that. We're expanding that this year. There's going to be 30 concerts on the trails around town.
Wow, yeah.
That Thomas Dambo sculpture will be out there. We're introducing a new series called Chirp, which is actually a vocal music series that'll take place on the trails. So it's a great way, as I said, to marry the outdoors with these artistic experiences.
I'll have to plan my runs.
Absolutely.
Around them. Make sure I hit everything as I'm going. I think something that was incredibly exciting is the National Endowment for the Arts just gave a grant to BCA. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, we were really excited, especially being a really young organization. We're only 3 years old. We're in our 4th year of operation, but to get that national recognition, I think speaks to the work that BCA and my staff, does day after day. But I think it's also, a big compliment to the town, because the town, it was really their vision, this whole idea. And they've done a great job of marrying sort of how municipalities work and how they approach arts and culture with, a separate nonprofit organization while, having these partnership with other arts organizations in town. So I think, it's a great model, and I think it's starting to inspire other communities around the U.S. Looking to Breckenridge.
Snowmass said we should spend money on arts like
I know.
Breck
Well,
does.
what's so funny about that, Haley, is was the town council 20 years ago. I think they visited Snowmass, they visited Anderson Ranch, and were inspired by the historic, sheds and everything that had been repurposed, and that was really their inspiration to build the arts district.
Wow, so it's full
So it's
circle.
so funny that they're now sort of, complimenting us and sort of keeping their eye on us. But again, I credit the town. I think a lot of communities, they talk about arts and culture, and they just don't invest in it. And you need that investment, and the town, really did invest in that. And I think, we're now starting to see that. You asked about sort of attendance and impact of WAVE and BIFA. Those both see over 10,000 guests for those events. And we estimated last year, and it was just under $1 million, between the two of them, just under $1 million in economic impact to the town because of all those people coming here. So, I think it's having an effect on the economy. I think, as the town continues to invest in us and continues to invest in all of the other nonprofit partners and arts organizations, I think, it's starting to come back to the town, and I think their investment was worth it, and I think they're now seeing that with things like the National Endowment for the Arts and other communities looking at Breckenridge, looking at Summit County and saying, wow, I love what they're doing, how can we do that?
Yeah, and I think what's great is all of this in the arts has been a big factor in bringing more diverse crowd to Breckenridge, not just the homogenous ski town population, but diverse cultures and backgrounds. And have you guys seen that and an increase?
Absolutely. I think during ski season, we have a lot of international guests. I think that's just kind of part of the culture here. But I think we're starting now to see a diversity of different people coming to town and embracing sort of different communities, ethnic. We're right now in the big planning of our Breck Pride celebration.
Yeah.
And I just think it's just starting to transform a little bit, and I think we're also saying we're a historic town, we're a mountain town, we have these values, but this is who we also are. We're also a progressive town, we're innovative, we embrace contemporary art, we're adventurous souls, we take risks. I think the spirit of the person who lives or visit here is reflected in the cultural landscape. And I think we're now starting to see that with, the different guests that are starting to come here and sort of discover what we've known for some time.
Yeah, exactly. And so, what are you excited about for 2018? What are you guys looking forward to?
Oh my gosh, so much. So, well, we're very excited, as I mentioned, about WAVE and BIFA. Those are exciting programs, but we've also revamped our exhibition program. So I think, we found great success in these sort of spectacle-based attractions, these free outdoor attractions that we were doing within the festival. And we said, well, how can we do that throughout the year? So I think you're going to start to see, later this year into next year, that we're going to be doing some of these special projects that are multi-month long, up on the trails, in the river, really within the community and outside of the venues, because I think people have really responded to that. They've been asking us to do more of that. So, we're starting to look at that. We're starting to look at, how else we can use the arts district, how we can better collaborate with our partners, just how we can really sort of leverage all of this investment that the town has made. So I think there's great possibilities. As I said, we're only into year 4, and I think it's, as I said, so far so good.
Yeah, and something I wanted to talk a little bit more about is the Riverwalk Center.
Yeah.
Just as an asset for our town, how do you feel about that?
Well, I love the Riverwalk Center. The town invested, I think it was in 2008, 2009, in putting the roof on the Riverwalk Center. And as we were saying earlier, now we're starting to see all this development around town, different music venues. So, I think for us, it's going to be an ongoing conversation with the town about how we continue to improve that venue. It is such a community gathering space. I look at, the types of events we host. We host great concerts, right? But we also are hosting, the Do Tour. We're hosting, Ski Swap. We're hosting so many nonprofit nonprofit fundraisers there. So I think it's important that the Riverwalk continue to be multi-purpose and continue to be sort of a community asset, you know. But I think it's something we're always looking at because, you know, we're not the only game in town anymore.
Right.
And how do we continue to make that, you know, truly an asset for the town?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, when my friends or family visit here, I always take them to Blue River Plaza and have them look out on the lawn and see the mountains. And, you know, this summer it was at Biffa, you had the ants that were picking up and carrying things, you know.
Well, I still think there's nothing better, you know, that whole, and now too with the update to that Plaza area right there by Riverwalk, but I think there's nothing better than that lawn area, those beautiful garage doors on the Riverwalk Center that just fly open to the, you know, you have the river right down there, you have the 10-mile range. I mean, it doesn't get more picturesque than that, you know, so it's a great asset, you know, all of those things for us, for an arts producer or for a partner to be able to utilize, you know, all of that.
Yeah, and I think as a town, you know, with the pedestrian walkway and
it's so much
with our
better.
sidewalk improvements, we're trying to encourage people to come into town, slow down, walk around, see the art, you know,
so
check
much
it
more
out.
inviting too, and you know, we haven't really even been through our first summer yet with that new plaza, but we already see it. I mean, in the winter, I've been seeing people sort of gathering up there and sitting on the rocks, and I just think it's going to be more of a community gathering space, and I think it will be more welcoming to our guests.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think I just want to wrap up with how can people who say, I love Breckenridge, I love the arts, how can they get more involved with BCA?
We will get them involved. So they should go to our website, breckcreate.org, and just go on there and you can find lots of ways. You know, you can get involved by taking a class. We were talking about that earlier. You know, we have a lot of volunteer opportunities. A lot of our ushers that you see at concerts are volunteers. A lot of our production assistants and studio techs are volunteers. So we couldn't do what we do without the community's involvement in that. But I think it gives you a great opportunity to try something different, try your creative side. I mean, you know, we're all creative in our own ways.
Right.
Some of us less than others, right? Me on the less side, but you know, it's a great chance to get involved in the community, and it's a fun group. So just go to the website and look under volunteer opportunities and come visit us.
Yeah, well, I personally am excited to see all the events this spring and summer, and maybe even be an usher, see some concerts. But thanks for your time here, thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us on this month's edition of Breck Buzz, the place where you can get all the information about the town of Breckenridge. Please join us next month.